Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 9. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and in a big exclusive, NewsX has learned that there are less than 200 active terrorists left in the valley now, and successful encounters by the forces have resulted in killing most of the top commanders of terror outfits who were supplied by the country of Pakistan, as we all know. These successful encounters have now made Pakistan wary of sending in more terrorists into Kashmir, as Imran and company are now facing a leadership void in the valley to carry out their terror strikes. Pakistan's infiltration bids have also been foiled by India very proactively and very aggressively. The intelligence surrounding them has been remarkable in the last few weeks. Sources also tell us that Pakistan has now been reduced to backing few local terrorists who are left in the valley. What does this terror purge mean for the Union Territory and for India? We'll discuss this with our panelists. Joining me is Major General Co.Face, Defense and Strategic Affairs Expert, Director of the India Foundation. Major Muhammad Ali Shah, Defense Expert, also joins us on the broadcast. Sumit, Kashmir political commentator and analyst as well. Joyita Basu, last but not the least, editor of the Sunday Guardian. Sumit, let me start by asking you a very simple question. Now with the Harriet gone and Pakistan definitely finding itself in a spot of bother, they're stuck between the deep blue sea and the devil at this point in time. They have nowhere to go. What do you think a desperate Pakistan is going to do?
I think, Vineet, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's very clear that what we have done after the abrogation of 370s, what was awaited for the last 27 years. People like Hurriyat and all, as I mentioned in the earlier show, they are a joint venture between ISI and Pakistan Army. So Hurriyat has done nothing for Kashmir. They were only dared to get thousands of Kashmiri youth killed. In fact, the mentions of Hurriyat people are on the graves of local Kashmiris and the men in uniform. That's the fact of life about Kashmir. Now with Hurriyat getting dismantled, because we need Hurriyat has a problem. It is they don't carry a gun, but they had a mass appeal. And sir, they were getting funded from Pakistan. It was the Pakistan money which was being used and circulated through Hurriyat. The money has stopped. Hurriyat is disbanded. And now the top terrorist commanders are killed. This means peace, prosperity, and return of normalcy for the valley. We need two important points. What has changed after 370? Point number one, these terrorists, these militants, or whatever you call them, they don't get any political patronage. The money from Pakistan and the Hurriyat supporters stopped. We need most important pertinent point. 200 terrorists killed up to the June this year. What happened? We need, how is this possible? Because the locals are fed up of terrorists. This precise information is given by locals. Locals don't want terrorism. They are tired of it, sir. They don't want terrorism. They are tired of it. One last point. We need, incidentally, there was a terrorist hideout which was raided. What did you find there? Besides Kalashnikovs and guns, Viagra, condoms, abortion kits. This is the reality of Kashmir terrorism. This is what Kashmir terrorism is about. It's money, it's womanizing, it's abduction, it's rapes, and all the evil on the earth is Kashmir terrorism, and it was funded by Pakistan. Happy to see it ended.
General Co.Face, if you can hear me, sir.
Yes.
So what do you make of this void? Let's call it a case of underemployment in the valley now, and Pakistan is perhaps running from post to pillar, trying to recruit people. The only thing that India should be worried about is that they should not get creative now. They've already used drones in the past to hurl weapons to the terrorists. What do you think Pakistan can do at this point in time? You being a defense expert, we have to in fact account for everything proactively.
Vineet, firstly, I think the leadership void has been the direct result of a deliberate policy by the Indian Army to target the leadership. And it is not something which is accidental. It has been found by experience that you just take out the leader and then the people under him, they disintegrate and possibly they will surrender. The second point which has really happened is there has been a great outreach to the villages, especially to the mothers. And there has been a very distinct attempt to tell them, please don't try to motivate your children not to take to this path. I think all these policies, it's a question of both the security, the political and the economic measures which have borne fruit. But the question is, it is not going to end. Even if there are 150 to 180 terrorists which are there now, all of them have got guns. Until the last gun goes, we are not going to get peace. So it's a long battle ahead. Now, there will be a change in tactics. And we have always seen that as and when the security forces achieve success on one flank, you find the terrorist groups changing their strategies. because their think tanks are in Pakistan. Now, the change which I'm seeing now is that you will find increasingly the softer targets getting hit. They will avoid big blasts in public places and all that, because that will take away public sympathy from them. But there will be political killings. We've already seen 3 political killings so far. I think more are in the offing, because when we are looking at the lower level political leadership, when you're talking about the panchs, sarpanchs, that level of elections, it is not possible for the state to provide protection to each and everybody 24 hours of the day. And while that effort will be made, it may not be totally successful or totally foolproof. I visualize seeing much more of these targeted attacks against selected targets. I think they will be looking at political targets, but they will also be looking at people whom they presume are supporting the Indian state and the Indian security forces. I do not think they're going to succeed very much, basically because the linkages which existed between the Pakistan ISI and the political leadership, especially of the Hurriyat, and some of the mainstream political parties, I dare say, and the overground workers of the terrorists. These linkages stand broken. I think that is the most important result. It is not really how many terrorists you kill. It is you break those linkages, you break those financial chains, and you come to a level by which the people feel it is not really worthwhile getting onto this path. I think the last step which we need to take, and which in my view is a very important and urgent step, and which I mentioned yesterday also, we need to have a much faster methodology of putting any of these people who have committed terrorist crimes behind bars. The criminal justice system has to be revamped so that a person who commits a terrorist attack, once caught, should be convicted in a maximum time period of 6 weeks. Once we achieve that, I think we have got all our structures in place. Kashmir deserves peace after more than 3 decades of violence, and I think we are getting there. I'm very confident we are getting there, and we are well on that path now.
All right, Major Muhammad Ali Shah, a void of leadership when it comes to leading terrorists in the valley. Do you think this is a direct impact of the abrogation of Article 370? Because that's music to everyone's ears.
Absolutely, Vinit. As General Katul rightly said, it was a deliberate move by the army to eliminate the leadership first. Because if you eliminate the leadership, everything falls in its place automatically. Now, I'll give you a small incident of a personal incident in the year 2003 when I was posted in Jammu Kashmir at the line of control. Our post was 30 meters away from the Pakistani post. At that time, Pakistan used to fire at us. We would fire at them also in return. Now, at the practicing range where we would fire the artillery shells, there was a small little, I think about 10-year-old boy who would come every day and pick up the empty shells and go back. So one day I called him. I said, "Come here. What do you do with these empty shells? Why do you risk your life so much?" He said, "Sir, I want to study. I want to educate myself. I want to live a normal life. But we are so poor. We don't have any money. So I have no option but to put my life at stake and collect the empty shells, which I sell to a scrap dealer, and I get some money, out of which that money our family is able to survive today." Now, that is the level of poverty over there, and that is the reason why people also are taking up to arms. Now, this is the right moment for us to catch them young and get them on our side, because education is the only way forward. When we educate them, on 14th February, when the Pulwama attacks took place, I wrote one second.
There are a lot of states in the country, Muhammad Ali Shah, where there is poverty. People don't pick up arms just because
No, I agree. So I wrote an open letter to Jaish-e-Mohammed on 14 February 2019, which was shared by millions of people on social media. Can you hear me there? Hello?
I can.
Okay, great. All right. So which was shared by millions of people on social media. And in that, I very categorically wrote to Jaish-e-Mohammed that you truly are the enemies of Islam. Because what they are trying to propagate is they are bringing religion in its place for their own personal politics. And let me tell you, by eliminating the leadership, that's the only way forward. And that is, as you rightly said, there are a lot of states in the country where there is poverty, people don't pick up arms. But that is exactly what these commanders were trying to do. For example, Burhan Wani, Burhan Wani became a social media expert and he really projected himself that he became a hero in Kashmir. I mean, that when we eliminated him and when Major Gaurav Arya had written an open letter to Burhan Wani, and I think which I read that letter and made a lot of sense. I personally shared that letter. Similarly, I was inspired to write an open letter to Jaish-e-Mohammed. And look at this. I mean, I'll tell you this film called Haider had come, in which I had acted as an army major. I made this line, which I actually used to believe in it when I was in the army, which said, "No militant, dead or alive, is worth my soldier's life." And we fire on Haider's house saying that. Now, similarly, there's no way forward but to eliminate the top leadership, as General Katori rightly brought out, as you mentioned rightly, Vineet.
Right, Joyita. Well, just a point, just because Burhan Wani became a social media sensation doesn't make him a hero. And
yeah, exactly.
I don't know what happened to that hero. He's dead now. Joyita Basu, your assessment of the valley, in fact, coming back to normalcy. A lot of debate has happened in the last few months, or rather the last year. 5th August was the anniversary of the abrogation of Article 370. A void in leadership when it comes to directing and leading this group of this pack of wolves in the Union Territory is what Pakistan is grappling with at this point in time. Do you think this is perhaps the result that the dispensation had in mind when they projected applying the abrogation in the Union Territory?
Yes, Vineet, I would say, this is a huge breakthrough in terms of eliminating if you remember, the Hizbul Mujahideen, one after another, their leadership, whoever was the commander for the Jammu Kashmir region, the army went on eliminating them one after the other. So there is no doubt about it that is the reason why. This is a direct fallout of that army policy, that we are not letting anyone go. And you see what was happening earlier when Mehbooba Mufti was chief minister. A lot of these people who were picking up guns and who were involved in these criminal activities, terrorist activities, they were being quote unquote rehabilitated. You see, this is something that was also one of the reasons why there was such a huge rise in terrorism in the valley. I refuse to use the word militancy. I will not use the word militancy. So that is also one of the reasons why this was happening. And you see, at that particular time, and there was a lot of criticism in terms of the BJP being part of that government, because you see, the BJP's partner was playing a completely different game altogether. So you see, having said that, when we are talking about a leadership vacuum, let's not forget a very fundamental fact about Kashmir. And that fact is that you see, when you're looking at the different religious groups over there, the clerics over there, the mosques over there. In fact, if you read, I was just reading a book where it is talking about, you see, every religious organization in Kashmir has a terrorist group sitting in Pakistan backing it. So you see, the problem is actually there. So when you are talking about, this radicalization, there is radicalization. Let's not make any bones about it. There is radicalization, and Kashmir has gone beyond independence it has gone to, Islamic Ummah. The reason why there is fear that, ISIS wants to come in over there, Taliban and all that, all these things will be coming in. So when we are talking about all these things, so what we have to look at is, you see, how do you counter this kind of, narrative, the poisonous venom that is being spread among the youngsters. You see, this is a narrative we have to counter at the village level. Okay, so even in downtown Srinagar, that is the message that has to go in. So here, a lot of work needs to be done by the government for that to show our humane face. That the government is not just about army. We have a humane face. There are areas in Kashmir where people say that there has not been any development since 1947. And I have been there. I have been to Gandarbal. In the interiors of Gandarbal, these young boys told me that, can you see here, there's been no development here after 1947. And that is the reason why we want independence. It's a different matter altogether that they do not understand what they are talking about. But it's also fact, whatever money the government has been sending the center, it has been lining the pockets of a few politicians. So that has to change.
Have misused it.
Yes.
Sumit, Major Muhammad Ali Shah made a very important point. He spoke of Burhan Wani and how he became a social media, you can call him an influencer to some extent, if I may use that word. But do you think that is the reason why the government has been reluctant in opening up 4G services as well? Because they do not want the youth to be, in fact, radicalized or influenced in a way that Burhan Wani influenced or was influenced.
Vineet, what was Burhan Wani? Burhan Wani was a person who had never fired a bullet in his whole life. And when army when he was caught in the encounter, he was pleading like a rat, "Mujhe chhod do, mujhe baksht do." That is the truth about Burhan Wani. Another truth about Burhan Wani is he had 50 girlfriends. And one of the girlfriends told him, I want to use a dignified word at girlfriends. I didn't want to use, it's a national TV, I don't want to use demeaning language. You know what I mean.
Point. We get
This is the truth about Burhan Wani. His information was given by one of his girlfriends. Where is he lying? This is what the real face of militancy is, or terrorism is. Sorry, I apologize for using the word militancy. This is what the real face of terrorism is. When you find condoms, when you find abortion kits, and when you find Vigras in terrorist hideouts, you can understand what this is about. Answering your specific question about 4G and all, these videos were circulated by ISI of Pakistan for their agents, wherein they were creating these fake videos, these fake propagandas. If Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, a Bangladeshi video, he can say it happened in Kashmir. If they are representative to you and a Palestinian video, she says this is a girl from Kashmir, then imagine what the ISI agents cannot do. So by stopping this 4G internet and all, we are not worried about Burhan Wani. Anybody who picks up a gun, we need has a shelf life. It's the only matter of how short that shelf life is. But we don't want locals to be misled. We don't want youth to be misled. We don't want Pakistani propaganda to be facilitated. That is why we are stopping this 4G, because 4G stoppage means you stop people from dying. It's a choice between 4G or let people die. And incidentally, they can be men in uniform. And if a brother in uniform dies, my heart bleeds and I cannot handle this. And I don't think 1.3 billion people can handle this. If a terrorist dies, you don't give two hoots to it. You pick up a gun, you are destined to die. There is no second thought about it. But if a man in uniform dies, it may be from J&K police, CRPF army, our heart bleeds. We want to stop people from dying. If the cost is no internet, let there be no internet. And we need 5 साल पहले 7 साल पहले 4G था क्या इंडिया में? We all used to live in 2G. We can do all the basic work. Where is the problem?
All right, I understand you feel very strongly about this, General Katoch. The fact of the matter is that even terrorists perhaps could be getting intelligent at this point in time. They can figure out that maybe Pakistan has nothing to offer anymore. Maybe this trumpet that they've been blowing for the past 70 years is it has no worth in it.
No, I really don't think that the terrorists have figured that out. And you see what has happened over the last 3 decades. The radicalization has crept into such an extent that it is unimaginable, and it will take quite some time for that to seep out. It's not going to be an easy process. I have always maintained, and that was right from 1990 onwards, it was never a fight in Kashmir for Azadi. It was always a fight for Islam, and it was to create an Islamic state. On the lines of the Taliban, where there was only one law, and that law was Sharia. Now, we can give it any spin we want, but that actually is the truth. Now, what has really happened post 370, and I want to repeat this point again because I think it is important. Please don't underestimate the power of linkages. And it is because of these linkages that we could not kill this problem. The linkages came from Pakistan, from the ISI, where the political establishment, that means the ruling political dispensation in Pakistan, was actively involved. Many times people say that, okay, the Prime Minister doesn't know. That is all bunkum. The Prime Minister of Pakistan knows what is happening and he's fully in the picture. Now, once you have broken those linkages between the Pak ISI and the Indian politicians within Kashmir who were supporting the movement, specifically the Hurriyat, but to a lesser extent, even Mehbooba Mufti's party and the Abdullahs, they would play a double game. They would play a different game in Delhi, and they would play a different game when they were in Srinagar. Now, that linkage starts broken, and that linkage again going down with the overground workers. And the second thing, which I think which was very, very important, was the way the financial linkages were broken. I think our own agencies who are dealing with this have done an outstanding job in breaking those linkages. For the army, of course, it has been an ongoing process that you have kept the terrorism down to a very, very great level. But we could not eliminate it because of the other factors. Now those other factors are being addressed. I think the political factors have been addressed. The economic factors, to get the economic upliftment, as Major Shah very correctly said. You see, once the children start seeing an alternative, I think their tendency to go towards radicalism will decline. So that is another important aspect which we have to take place. But the important thing is, don't let the pressure go. Don't let the pressure go, because if you let the pressure go now, until the very last man is eliminated, it is going to raise its head again. But I can assure you, once we have nipped this evil in the bud, for Pakistan to try to resurrect it again will be a nightmare. It will not be possible. It is possible for Pakistan, as of now, to resurrect the movement. We have to get to a situation by which that becomes impossible, and the pressure, political, economic, diplomatic, and military, must be maintained the way it is being maintained now.
Absolutely, a very valid and an important point, Major Muhammad Ali Shah. The pressure, the momentum, rather the grip that we have acquired in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has to be consistently maintained. One small slip up, and that's big enough a void for Pakistan to leverage that situation and once again influence our boys.
Absolutely, and I am so with General Katoj. He said he snatched my word out of my mouth. He was absolutely right, and we are keeping the momentum, because abhi nahi to kabhi nahi. They're lacking fun, they're lacking leadership, their morale is low. We have everything working in our favor. Now, for example, I'll give you the DGP of JNK, Dilbagh Singh himself reported that Haider Sajjad, the commander, was killed on Tuesday. Similar, on 19th August, the IGP Vijay Kumar reported that the Lashkar terrorist commander Nasruddin Lone, who was involved in killing of 3 CRPF jawans at Sopore on 18th April and 3 CRPF jawans at Handwa on 4th of May, have got killed in anti-terror operation in Kashmir. I think it's great news. And similarly, we should just keep up the momentum. And once we keep up the momentum, I think we will surely succeed in eliminating the entire...
Okay, some problem with Muhammad Ali Shah's video over there, but Sumit wants to make a point. Sumit, come in.
Vinny, just one quick point. The fact about Kashmir is, when it comes to Kashmiri political leaders, they're Islamists in Kashmir. They become atheists in Jammu, and they become secularists when they land in Delhi. And these people have traded off Kashmir and Kashmirians for their money. The fact of life is that they have nothing to do with the people who are killed. They have just traded off Kashmir and Kashmir for their money. They have built those, castles of wealth over the dead bodies. That's the life of Kashmir. We need this is what had happened for the last 30 years. They befooled everybody in the name of freedom. There is no freedom problem in it. And trust me, you eliminate the leadership, you will see the things coming back to normal. That's the only way to go. Political, military, terrorism, all those overground workers, you eliminate them. Let the newer leadership also look at Panchayati elections. A new breed of leaders has come up. They are young, they are vibrant, they want peace, they want development. They are not for this terrorism. They have nothing to do with Pakistan. We have to call up this Pakistan. I want to make one last point. Pakistan is the state which has failed for last 30 years, 3 decades. They have failed to take Kashmir. Kuch nahi mila unko Kashmir mein. It's a failed force, useless state, and a useless initiative. They have no shame to acknowledge that we failed for 30 straight years in Kashmir. That's fact of life.
All right. Well, there's a new beginning in the Union Territory, and obviously Pakistan is extremely perturbed. They have been running from pillar to post, trying to revive the Hurriyat as well. But the Hurriyat has been silent for the past 1 year, and hopefully they'll continue to be so. This new zest that has been developed and maintained in the Union Territory has to be prolonged with, has to be sustained with.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.